What happens in your body if someone says to you, oh, but you can be happy without a baby. You can be happy without children. What happens in your body? For me, while I was going through infertility and unsuccessful IVF and miscarriage, someone saying that to me was literally like they had punched me in the stomach, slapped me in the face, and then looked at me with compassion, and they were like, oh, poor you. And I was like, what? You're supposed to be helping me. And generally, the people saying this to us really are trying to help us. They're friends, they're our mum, our aunt, and maybe even your therapist or counsellor. And this is where, people who are not in the space of supporting someone, who aren't trained to do this as a living, that I have a major issue with. I have a major issue with anyone saying it to you, but obviously we cannot control what our friends and family think. However, when someone who you are literally going to for emotional support says to someone who desperately wants to become a mother and is struggling to make that desire a reality, it can be so detrimental and so harmful. And I'll explain why. So, when we're looking to someone to support us, we want to feel held. We want to feel heard. We want to feel seen. And so if someone has been literally listening to you, maybe for months, maybe even years, listening to you say, I want to be a mother, I want to have a baby. And if they start saying to you, but you can be happy without that, it's a major, major red flag. I totally understand why they do it. It makes complete logical sense because yes, of course you can be happy without a baby. Thousands of millions of people wanted to have a baby, live very fulfilling lives, child-free. However, they didn't get there overnight. And also, it's not somewhere I want you to be spending your time and energy trying to get to. I want you to spend your time and energy sorting yourself out. Yes, getting super happy, getting super, loving your life. But so that, one, for you, obviously, but two, because then you're more likely to get pregnant. And so sometimes people are saying this to us because there is that energetic shift of when someone realizes that they don't need the baby in order to be happy, takes the pressure off. When someone stops striving and pushing and desperately needing to get pregnant, it takes the pressure off. But you can't make yourself get there. The way to get there is not to tell yourself you don't need or want the thing that you desperately want and need. So I'm going to talk today about a different way of doing this. But let's first carry on with why this... Well, let's talk to start about why people are doing this. They're doing this because, one, our friends and family, maybe therapists as well, counsellors as well, they see that you're in pain and they want to take that pain away from you, for you. And other things that they've said, maybe to start with, they're very positive. Maybe like, oh, it will happen for you, and stay positive, and have you tried this treatment route, or have you tried not thinking about it? Have you tried blah, 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 blah? I mean, give you all this advice, and maybe it's not worked. And so then they go, oh, okay, well, what's the next track? They know kind of intuitively, there's something in them that knows that if they can stop you desperately wanting to get pregnant, it takes that pressure off and allows you to soften. So they think that the way to help you do that is to convince you to stop wanting a baby. So some people even go down the really, really effed up route of describing to you what it's like being a mother and how horrible it is, how horrible children are. So I imagine maybe a lot of your friends already have children. They're like, oh my God, don't even know why you want a baby. All they do is scream like, oh my God, haven't slept since I had them. Oh, you can, have mine for a day. That'll change your mind. Again, so inappropriate, so hurtful, so triggering, because you would give anything. You would literally give anything to be up in the night with a screaming baby, rather than up in the night because you yourself are screaming inside because you can't have a baby. Does that resonate? This is the point I was at. I was literally screaming inside every minute of every day. And people were saying to me, oh, you don't even want a baby anyway. They're a lot of work. And I'd be like, I'm fully prepared for that, thank you. Yes. Or people telling me, oh, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And I'm like, well, I want the chance to try. Thanks. So people are trying to take your pain away. And they're trying to convince you that you can be happy child-free, which I totally agree is possible for people. However, when you're in the depths of trying to conceive, we don't want you to be, if you go to the space of trying on for size, not having a baby, what happens in your body? For most people, they completely contract. They feel physically sick. They're literally like, their whole body is screaming no. Their whole body is like, no, that is not the future I want. That's not fair. I really want to be a mum. I don't understand. No. Thinking about not having a child is so alien and so the complete opposite of what I want. It's insulting to me that you would lay that solution on the table. And this is the problem with traditional counsellors and therapists and coaches who have not been through infertility or are not trained to support people through infertility, because they can see that if you relaxed into the belief of you don't need a child to be happy, you take the pressure off, you focus on other things in life, hopefully you get pregnant, bing bang bosh, and then you have a baby. But it's just going about it completely the wrong way. All it does is alienates you and creates a disconnect in that relationship with your therapist or counsellor. When you're now like, have you not heard what I've been saying for the past however many months or years? I really want a baby. It's really upsetting me and creating, maybe quite a lot of anxiety that's not happening. You telling me that I shouldn't want it anymore? What am I supposed to do that? So what you do is you clam up. Maybe you stop talking about your fertility struggles, or maybe you listen to them, you respect them, and they've been amazingly helpful and supportive in so many other areas of your life. So you listen to them and you go, oh, okay, well that does make sense. Like, I know people can live child-free, happy lives. Like, I know that. Okay, I'll try that. And generally what happens is you get more anxious, you get more depressed, you get more worried about it never happening for you, because you're like, well, hang on a minute. Is that what I need to do now? Do I just need to give up on this dream? I'm not ready to give up on this dream. And I've had women come to me who are like in their early 40s and they're like, I feel like I'm too old. That's it. I think I need to move on from this dream. And I'm just like, you are literally still a baby in the world of trying for babies. My oldest client was 47. She had her little girl at the beginning of the year. She is loving being a mum. She got pregnant naturally after unsuccessful IVF. They were saving up to do another transfer, and she now got her baby, 47. So, what do we want to do differently? What we want to do is get you to this place of softening, get you to this place of dropping the striving, dropping the desperation, but we don't do it by overriding your built-in instinct to reproduce, that maternal instinct that in some of us has been like alive and kicking since we were toddlers. And, you know, we held that baby doll and we were like, one day this will be a real baby. I knew since I was 2.5 when my mum had my brother that I wanted to be a mum. And so then when it wasn't happening, it felt so discombobulating. I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I not just getting pregnant, having a baby? It's just so illogical. And so then when people were saying to me, oh, but you could be happy without a baby. I'm like, well, yeah, I might be, but I don't want to be happy without a baby. I want a baby. I don't just want one baby. I want 2 babies. Thank you very much. That's another thing. If you're going through secondary infertility, people are, oh, but you can be happy with 1 child. Yes, you can. Of course you can. But someone taking your dream away of being a mum of 2 or 3 or however many it is you want to have, people saying, we can just be happy with your lot. Be happy with what you lot. Your desire for more is too much. Basically, quieten down, be grateful for what you've got, deal with it. And again, that's not the energy that I want you living in. I want you living in the energy of abundance and receptivity and softness and that fertile energy of welcoming in a baby, because it's powerful, so powerful. So when people were saying to me, it's like, you could be happy without a baby, I was like, well, I could, but that isn't the life I want, because you're not just saying you're going to live child-free through your 30s and 40s. You're also going to then be grandchild-free as you're older. You're like the life, the trajectory that you go on if you have children or you don't have children is so vividly, massively, hugely different to people who don't have children. Like, it's not just for the next 20 years as you're raising them. It's the whole rest of your entire life. So someone saying to you, oh, but you could create an amazing, beautiful life without children. Of course you could. Of course you could. But why on earth would you want to be thinking about that now when what you want is to be having a baby? Adding to your family. So, for me, there was no end point. And I'll just speak a little bit to the people who are maybe approaching this point of feeling like maybe actually this really is something I need to think about. So I'm going to talk about that for a little bit before I get into what I want you to do instead of what we're talking about. But so for the people that actually have maybe been trying for, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, maybe you've been through round after round of treatment and it hasn't worked yet. Maybe you're getting to the point that you're like, I can't keep doing this. 1, physically, I can't keep doing it. I'm absolutely exhausted. 2, physically can't doing it because my body actually, this is really detrimental for my body. I can't keep doing this. 3, financially, really can't keep doing this. Emotionally, this is just too much. If you're getting to that stage, the conversation there is not, am I going to go off and live child-free? The conversation there is maybe we change the route in which we're trying to get pregnant. So there might be space there to think about, are there other ways that you can create your family? So sometimes that's moving to donor conception, sometimes that's moving to surrogacy, sometimes that's moving to adoption. There are other steps that you may want to consider. And obviously, I do support people who are coming to this point of, maybe this is a real conversation that needs to be had now. And maybe you're like one of my clients who came to me right at the very end of her journey. She'd been through 6 rounds of IVF already, no pregnancies. And they were going to go in for one last transfer. And she had an embryo on ice, and she was like, right, I'm coming to you because it probably isn't going to work. So I need support to, 1, build up my courage to be able to do this, because actually this embryo has been on ice for so long now because I am petrified. Because if I go into that cycle and then it's unsuccessful like all the others have been, what then? Then that's it. Then I am living a child-free life, but that isn't what I want. So I'm too scared to go in and have this transfer. So you need to help me to be brave enough to have this transfer. We were also, so that was the brief. That's why she came to me. I then added to that and I was like, okay, well, instead of our intention for you, our dream for you being, you're brave enough to go in and do this cycle, because probably not going to be successful anyway, but you need to get it over and done with so that you can prove that it hasn't worked, get on with your life. I was like, as fun as that intention is, that's not the model of the world that I function in. So I was like, how about, yes, we do that work as well. We get you really brave, we get you resilient, we build you up so that you can go in and do this without completely crumbling. And just plant those seeds of what if this is your baby? What if this final transfer, this final one, the seventh one, what if this is it? What if this is your baby? What if this could work? And when we first started having those conversations, my client was just like, it's not going to work. And I was like, well, why are you doing the transfer then? If you know 100% it's not going to work, then, you just keep the baby, keep the embryo on ice, or donate the embryo. If you know it's not going to work, why are you doing a transfer? And she was like, I'm just doing the transfer to prove, to just close the chapter on this. And I was like, no, there's some part of you in there that believes that this could work, because otherwise you wouldn't have reached out to me. Yeah? And it was like a light bulb had gone off, and she was like, oh yeah, okay. And I was like, if you just wanted stress relief, if you just wanted to go, work with a counsellor or coach who was going to help you be resilient, help you get over the anxiety, work through your fears of going into transfer again, work through your fears of it being unsuccessful, and support you as you move into a child-free life. If that's what you wanted, you wouldn't have come to me. You wouldn't have gone onto my website, seen all of those testimonials, all of those success stories. You wouldn't have read them and gone, this is the person for me. You would have gone like, oh, no, I don't believe any of that. That's not, that's not for me. That's for other people. That's not for me. And you would have gone and found another counsellor or coach or therapist who could do what you were asking him or her to do with you. But you didn't. You rang me and you said, Naomi, can you help me? And that in itself is huge. It's so huge because there was something in you that made you think, like, maybe this is possible. And if I'm going to do this, then I want someone who's helped other women to do this too, who has walked beside women who have gone through years and years and years of disappointment and unsuccessful cycles. Yeah? Which I have. Been doing this for over a decade. And a lot of the women I work with come to me at what they think is the end of their journeys, because it's just so painful and I don't feel like, it's possible. But something in them is saying, don't give up hope yet. Like, keep going. There is a chance. And that client is now 32 weeks pregnant from that final embryo that was on ice. 6 rounds of unsuccessful IVF. Final transfer. Final go. They weren't going to go in for egg collection again. They weren't going to do any more treatment. This was it. This was the final one. Pregnant. Healthy pregnancy. 32 weeks. And we spent time in our sessions talking about what if it doesn't work. Yes, that was part of the work that we did, because that's what she wanted to do. However, that was a very minimal part of our work. That was, in a way, just a footnote of, let's go here and go to the worst case possible scenario so it's not as scary. Let's go to the worst case scenario and flesh that out so that you know that you're not gonna just completely dissolve into a puddle and disappear if that happens. Let's talk about other ways you could create your family. other ways you could choose to live your life. Yes. But the main work that we did was the fact that she didn't believe herself that it was possible for her because it had taken so long and she'd never been pregnant before. All those treatments, never been pregnant. So we were building up the belief that this was possible for her. That just because previous cycles were unsuccessful, that has actually absolutely nothing to do with the next cycle. Absolutely nothing. You think it does because that's how human brains work, but actually it has absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. Because each cycle, each egg or each embryo is its own complete little entity, its own little person. And so for me, went through 4 rounds of fertility treatment. First 3 unsuccessful, 4th was successful, got pregnant, miscarried. So when I was thinking about going into treatment again, I was like, well, done it 4 times now, is it going to work? I got pregnant naturally before I went back into treatment. And got pregnant with Evie naturally as well. What had happened before had nothing to do with what happened in those months that they were being conceived. So, the way I do things is differently. I do things differently to other therapists, coaches, counsellors. I will never say to you, you can be happy without children, so, let's go there. If that's a conversation you want to have, completely, we will have it. It will be there on the table. However, my intention for you is so much higher, so much bigger, so much grander than, I just want to get through this and prove it's not working. My intention for you, my intention for my client I just spoke about was that she would get pregnant, she would have a healthy pregnancy, and she would come and do my Embrace Bump to Baby Hypnobirthing course, which is what she's doing, saw her on Tuesday. That is the strength of conviction that is possible. And maybe it's delulu, maybe it's completely delusional, but you are just statistically, makes no sense that she got pregnant in that final round. The likelihood of that happening for her, at her age, with her medical history, with the history of her treatments before, the likelihood of that happening was so slim, but it was possible. And if something is impossible, then there's hope. Yeah? And even the word impossible spells I'm possible. So that's quite fun as well. So if you're working with someone and being supported by someone and they're starting to try and move you towards, you could put this dream down and let's focus on how you can be happy. Just ask them to stop. Just say, look, this is not helping me. What they could help you with is looking at how you get super, uber happy now in your everyday life. No mention of the whole child-free debacle. This is purely in this moment, today, and for the next few weeks, how do I get myself deliriously happy? How do I get myself literally just crazy with joy? Crying with joy, tears of gratitude, tears of joy, because when you're in that energy, not only does it feel magical and powerful and exciting, but it's goddamn fertile energy. It's suddenly it's I still really want a baby and I know I want to be a mother, but I'm not going to collapse if it's not this month. I'm going to be okay. I want it to be this month. If not this month, next month. But you're going to be okay if it's not. Yeah? And that is completely different to getting on board with never having children ever. I was never going to get on. I was never going to go aboard that boat, ever. I never got to the place I was like, I will be completely happy without babies in my life. No, fuck off. No. No, just no. 1,000 no's. I was never boarding that ship. And when I tried to board that ship, it just made me so much more anxious, so much more depressed, that I was like, wow, even the person supporting me thinks that is, yeah. And maybe, to be fair, maybe it works for some people. Maybe some people are like, oh my God, I really explored what it'd be like child-free. I realised that was absolutely fine. And then I took the pressure off. And then, maybe that works. Maybe that's part of their process. But for me, it just was confusing. And it kind of felt just hurtful. And especially if you're working with someone who has maybe already got a family. And so you're kind of like, well, it's all very well for you because you have what you wanted. So how do you do that? You do that by working with your mind and body as one. You do that by working through the subconscious beliefs and thoughts and patterns that mean that you're not currently feeling happy and feeling aligned with fertility. These things, these beliefs that are built up, one of the biggest ones being, what if this never happens for me? What if this is it? What if I have to live child-free and this is just the only option for me? That is so scary. It is so, so scary. And for most of you listening, you're going to get pregnant and have a baby in the next 12 months. Like, statistically speaking, that is a fact. That is just a fact on, like, how many couples get pregnant after they've been trying for however long. Like, that's just a fact. Like, most of you will get pregnant next year, have a baby. Some of you might not. But that doesn't mean that you're not then going to have a baby the following year, or maybe even the following year. But for most of you, it is going to happen. But we don't believe that. We believe that we are maybe in that tiny, tiny percentage of people for who it doesn't happen. And maybe we even know people that have been through that. And so we class ourselves, we negatively bias the statistics and put ourselves in that tiny minority instead of the majority. And it hurts and it scares us. It scares the bejeebers out of us. And then we can't function properly. And then our whole body is tense and closed. And then maybe we do things that are silently sabotaging our desire to be a parent without even realising it. Maybe our diet's a bit squiffy. Maybe we're still not getting enough sleep. Maybe we're addicted to our work, addicted to our phones. Maybe we're not, pushing forward with something that might really support our fertility that we know we need to do, but we don't want to do for some unknown reason. Maybe you're deliberately, the most obvious, but not obvious when you're living it, is when people pick a massive fight with their partners around ovulation, so they don't have sex. I literally worked with women who are desperate to get pregnant again, or even preparing to go, maybe save up to go into treatment, and they're not having sex. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. What's going on? And they're like, we're all planned, knew when ovulation was going to be, planning to do it, try this month, give ourselves the best shot. And then they pick a massive fight with their partner and they just have no idea why. And then you do the subconscious work and what comes out, they are petrified of being pregnant. Petrified because that means they might miscarry again. Or what's that going to do to their relationship? Or actually, they're petrified of childbirth. So actually, by picking a fight around ovulation, not having sex, they guarantee they're not getting pregnant. They keep themselves safe. It doesn't make any logical sense. But in terms of your subconscious, it makes complete sense. Because your subconscious's role, its whole role is to keep you safe, keep you alive. It doesn't care if you're happy or not. It cares if you're safe. It cares if you're alive. And so we do this work to uncover what these silent sabotagers might be, and we clear them. And sometimes it's as simple as shining a light on them, revealing them, and you go, oh, oops, yeah, I've been doing that. I think I'll stop doing that. That's how simple it can be. Other times we actually do the energy work. So this is where emotional freedom technique tapping comes in. This is where hypnotherapy comes in. This is where compassionate trauma repair comes in to do the deeper energetic work. But sometimes you can get that emotional and energetic shift purely by shining a light on something. And literally it's like a light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, right, okay. And this is what I'm going to be talking about in depth in my next free masterclass, which is happening on Wednesday, the 24th of September. It's going to be 8 p.m. BST, so it means it's going to be lunchtime, mid-afternoon, or early morning, depending on where you are in the world. So check my website for the times, because 8 p.m. BST, which means the vast majority of you should be awake and able to attend, but I am going to be recording as well. So sign up at embracefertility.co.uk/free-class, and then you'll also be on the list to receive the recording. And in that class, which is titled, Is Your Subconscious Silently Saying Not Yet? How to uncover that and work through it. Or something along those lines. Keep changing the name. But that's basically what we're focusing on. We're focusing on how do you know if there's something subconscious going on. And this isn't just on the level of, is there something subconscious stopping you physically getting pregnant? This is on so many levels on how you're living your life while you're trying to conceive. Because sometimes you can just be bloody sabotaging yourself all over the place with your relationship because you're just pissed off that you're not getting pregnant. And so actually you're taking out on your partner, and that's really not helping you, and it's really not helping him or her, and it's just making you both just anxious and sad. There are so many things that actually when a light is shined on them, you're like, oh yeah, it's probably not the best for me right now, and that's not how I want to be living. So let's change it. So come sign up for the class on the 24th, and reach out on Instagram and let me know if this podcast has resonated. Let me know if someone has ever said to you, you'll be happy without kids. Let me know if that resonates and how it felt when they did.